The Long Road to True Happiness by WierdRandomTina. Chapter 17. Relaxation and Exercise. On Friday, Branch accepted 2 treats from Poppy. A carrot muffin as a prize for their previous Strike 5 competition, and another almond cookie as an extra gift. And, once again, the grey troll had nothing to offer the kind-hearted princess in return. He knew she didn't expect anything, nor did she care if she ever received any gift from him. All she wanted was for him to be happy, and, truthfully, he doubted he could even give her that. But her altruism only made Branch more determined to give her something in return. Something perfect. Something that wasn't measly and common, but also wasn't uncharacteristically over the top and or screaming his feelings for her. He had spent more time fretting over this than he'd care to admit. Poppy's comments on the weather outside interrupted his thoughts. "We can do whatever you like, but I highly suggest doing it outdoors. It's so sunny and warm out. We might as well make the most of it before autumn arrives." "Sounds good." Taking that as the end of his statement, Poppy skipped over to the elevator, so Branch quickly clarified, "Not right away, though." She paused mid-skip. "I'd like to finish cleaning up my exercise room first. I meant to do so before you arrived, but I ran out of time. It'll only take me 10 minutes or so." She scurried back over to him. "I'll help you." "You don't have to. It's kind of tedious." "Yeah, but if I do, it'll take 5 minutes instead of 10. And then we'll have more time to be outside in the beautiful weather. Besides, I'm not going to just sit around while you do all the work."
Branch sighed, but in a warm-hearted manner. "All right. I won't argue."
"Good choice." Down the hallway, around the corner, and into the 3rd room, the 2 trolls got to work. Most of the equipment had been rearranged and cleaned, and his smaller punching bag plus one of his benches had been replaced, the 2 old lying on the floor off to the side. As he explained to Poppy, all Branch had left to do was break down the wooden bench, discard the punching bag down the trash chute, and sweep the floor, and return a few of the dumbbells settled near the entrance to the far end of the room. With the bag and bench taken care of, Poppy swept one half of the room, while Branch took care of the other. 3 stone dumbbells, 2 each half the length of her arm, and 1 almost as long as her body, were on the other side of the room, so the magenta princess abandoned her broom and made her way over to them, and moved the 2 smaller ones back to their spot. "These are a lot heavier than they look," Poppy realized as she awkwardly carried them, using a few strands of her hair for some extra assistance. Returning for the larger dumbbell, she knew the chance of her being able to lift it was next to 0, but she tried anyway. Sure enough, even gripping with both hands, she could hardly budge it. Though she could possibly lift it with her hair, Poppy decided to leave it, as she wasn't certain where it was supposed to go anyway, and Branch was almost done with his sweeping too. They both sat down their brooms at the same time, and he approached the large stone dumbbell. The princess expected him to grab it with his hair, but to her surprise, he casually picked it up with his hands, straining no less than she had with the lighter ones. Poppy couldn't help herself from gawking as Branch walked away. She had never seen a troll so naturally strong. Sure, a troll's hair naturally has extra strength, especially Smidge's, whose long cyan tuft was capable of lifting an entire boulder, but to use just their arms? Poppy had never really paid attention before, but now she observed how her grey friend had a uniformly sturdy build, unlike the usual troll shape of slender upper body and a chubby belly. He must work out often, plus all the daily building and gathering stuff he does. A shiver passed through her, as she wondered where such a sudden draft would come from. As Branch set the dumbbell down in its place, his skin crawled with the sensation of someone's gaze on him. Since there was only one other person in the room, he turned partially around to find his guest staring at him with wide fuchsia eyes. But she wasn't casually watching him with her usual mild curiosity. Poppy had never looked at him like this. No one had ever looked at him like this. An awestruck stare focused in like a laser. Branch found it rather unsettling. He hadn't done anything to warrant such a reaction. One would think he'd started singing and dancing in front of her.
You okay?
It took her a noticeable few seconds to snap out of it. Huh? What? He repeated himself, and she fumbled for an answer. Oh, yeah, yep, yes. I'm good. I'm great. I am great. I was just, well, we should get going. We don't want to miss out on the nice weather. And in a blur of pink and blue, she disappeared around the corner. Branch blinked several times.
Well, that was odd.
Poppy tended to space out at times. But this must have been one serious daydream. Then he grimaced.
It was probably about Creek.
Not wanting to shift into a worse than usual mood, Branch forced any would-be nasty thoughts out of his mind and prepared to head out. Poppy scooted out of view and scurried into the living room. Her heart was pounding, though she wasn't quite sure if it was from her short sprint out of the gym. What was that all about? She'd never felt awkward around Branch before. She'd never felt awkward around any troll. But instead of trying to figure out the cause, Poppy decided it would be best to ignore it. Oh, well, it was just a fluke thing. Probably because he asked if I was okay, and I'm not used to that from him. Yeah, that's obviously it. With the dilemma solved, she read over one of her to-do lists while she patiently waited for Branch. He grabbed his already packed knapsack in the kitchen. Then he and Poppy headed to the elevator. She seemed fine with him now, like nothing out of the ordinary had happened. So he just shrugged it off too. The pair made their way down to a pond just outside the village. There were no other trolls nearby, so, after some light grumbling from Branch, they decided to cool down and have a swim. Retreating under the dome of hair, Poppy changed into her swimsuit. After releasing the magenta walls, she found Branch testing out the shallows of the pond, with his vest hanging on a nearby tree. Almost all male trolls walked around with a bare upper body, so it wasn't really a big deal at all. Nothing out of the ordinary. Yet Poppy had never seen Branch without his thick, leafy vest. Images of him easily carrying that giant dumbbell popped into her mind. Again she found herself intrigued by his unique figure, which she now had a better view of. Definitely not the heavier set like her dad or some of the older trolls, but not pudgy or slim either. Just a perfect in-between. Creek had a bulkier than average form too, but not like this. Branch began wading into the fresh pool as he felt the skin-crawling someone watching him feeling again. Sure enough, he turned around, and there was Poppy, now wearing a cute yellow swimsuit tied around her neck. She stood, unmoving, staring intently at him, almost studying him. Branch was certain she was not spaced out this time. When he took a couple of casual steps on one side, her gaze followed, glued onto him. As the seconds dragged on, anxiety began to rise in him.
Did I do something weird? Is something about me bothering her? Is she regretting wanting to spend time with me? Poppy?
At the sound of her name, the princess snapped out of the daze she hadn't even realized she had been trapped in. Branch was looking at her with unmasked discomfort, and sounded nervous as he asked,
Is something wrong?
No, Poppy clarified, higher pitch than she intended. She cleared her throat and forced her voice down to a more casual tone. No, nothing's wrong. I was just deep in thought there. You know, princess stuff. He didn't respond, but his look of unease remained as he turned and fully waded into the water. Okay, I need to stop looking at him like that. I'm freaking him out. I'm freaking me out. Branch wanted to outright ask Poppy what was making her uncomfortable, but he was too scared to hear the answer, spending a few seconds trying to work out what it could be. He realized this was the first time he'd had his vest off around her. It was natural. He was going swimming, so he didn't even think twice about it. But she must have been disturbed by the bulky, dull grey, untroll-like sight. He felt a tad bit hurt by the concept, but it was true. So he couldn't blame her for feeling that way.
But Princess Poppy is far too polite to ever be openly expressed something so negative.
Suddenly feeling self-conscious, Branch quickly waded further in to hide himself under the water. Within a few more seconds, a giant splash erupted right beside him. Poppy had taken reckless and assertive approach, of course, and just cannonballed right in. When the princess resurfaced, she giggled as she found him glaring at her with water drops from his face and hair. Oops! Sorry, Branch.
You're not sorry at all.
You are absolutely correct. Oh, it's chilly.
Hence why you wade in gradually and give your body time to adjust to the temperature change.
Nah, it's more refreshing this way. Their classic bickering helped to ease the awkward tension in the air. For a few minutes the two trolls swam around the pool, though Branch's strokes were smooth and precise, while Poppy's were chaotic and ungraceful. Eventually the princess pulled out a multicoloured beach ball for them to hit back and forth, reminding them both of the balloon incident. Then later, she convinced her companion to try out her floaty, shaped like a donut, and coloured in like one too.
I'm not a trolling, he grumbled. I don't need a balloon to stay afloat.
Neither do I, but it's not about needing it. It's about a comfier way to stay afloat. Quit complaining and just try it. So Branch gave in and climbed onto it. After a few minutes, Poppy pointed out that he looked more relaxed, and he grudgingly admitted that
it's not bad.
So she swam around for a bit, waiting for him to fully relax. Then, with a wicked grin, she slunk over and flipped him into the water. She was already laughing before he resurfaced. After flailing and spluttering for a second, Branch regained his composure and gave her another one of his signature annoyed but not too annoyed glares.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So much for being relaxing.
Well, I just remembered that it's also a great way to catch someone off guard. Hey! Poppy's analysis ended in a high-pitched laugh as Branch brought down his hand roughly to splash her right in the face. She returned the favour, but her tiny hands weren't nearly as effective. She let out squeals of humour and mock fear as her feeble attempts did little to counteract his cascades of water. Eventually Poppy surrendered, not without giving him one final little splash, and the mismatched pair sat alongside the grassy ridge with their feet dangling into the water. She and Branch each held an iced tea. It wasn't his favourite beverage, but it was nice to have on such a hot day. After a particularly long sip, Poppy started a conversation. So, Branch, I couldn't help but notice how easily you lifted that giant dumbbell earlier. I tried, but I couldn't move it at all. She loosely gestured towards his torso. You must work out a lot to be that strong. Despite her casual presentation on the outside, her insides were screaming with awkwardness. I'm just stating a fact, giving him some friendly praise. What's the big deal? Branch blinked a couple of times at the unexpected comment.
Yeah, every day, actually. I have a specific routine of exercises, some basic and some more complex.
Suddenly Poppy's unusual staring made sense. She was noticing how he was more muscular than the average troll. It made him feel a bit better, knowing that she wasn't disgusted by him. In fact, she almost sounded impressed. He almost felt flattered by the notion, until he reminded himself that she was just making a general observation.
It's not as if she finds me attractive. That's almost laughable.
After the pause to collect his thoughts, Poppy added, Not very many trolls work out, actually. Some do basic gymnastics for fun. Many do daily yoga, especially Greek. Smidge lifts weights with her hair. That's about it.
Having strong hair is good, but a troll should never be dependent on their hair, Branch warned. If it were to become injured or restrained, you'd be left essentially helpless. It's important to stay fully fit. It's better for your overall health. Plus, you never know what dangers could be thrown your way. I, for one, would want to be prepared for any possible situation.
Like, what kind of situation?
He gave Poppy a sidelong glance, wondering how it could not be obvious. Defending yourself from a predator 20 times your size, surviving a natural disaster and coping with the aftermath. An accident involved one of your many unsafe party contraptions, or a serious structural malfunction which could require extensive repairs.
Okay, I get it. If Poppy didn't stop him now, the list would go on for hours. She wasn't interested in another safety lecture. Instead, she was curious to hear more about his unique lifestyle and skills. So, what are some good ways to become fully fit? Could you show me some? Branch began to list off the most common ways, but Poppy interrupted him. I said show, not tell. I want to try some. We can do a small workout together. Duo workout. The grey survivalist raised a thick, dark eyebrow, looking wary. Probably confused as to why the princess wanted to get involved in his non-fun activities, as well as being hesitant to adjust his steady solo routine to accommodate a partner. Finally, he shrugged. All right, I guess. Great! So what's our first activity? In answer to her question, Branch pondered for a moment, and then led her to a nearby tree. A very tall but half-dead spruce. First off, we climb to the top of that, using our hair as little as possible. Climb? Poppy tilted her head all the way back to view the nearly bare treetop. This one? But there's hardly anything to grab onto. It looks kind of tricky. That's the idea. If you can maneuver up a tree like this, a regular tree will become a piece of cake. Well, I do like cake. Branch shook his head at the perky princess, but instead of responding, he started climbing. After making it up 4 or 5 levels, he looked back down to find his pink companion still standing on the ground, staring up at him. Are you coming or what? You're the one who wanted to do a duo workout. Uh-huh. Yep. Coming. Poppy scanned the scraggly tree again, searching for the best route, and decided it would be the most effective to follow Branch's successful path. But the athletic grey troll was making it look so flipping easy. She was struggling like a fish out of water, clumsily inching her way up the tree, her hair or hands or feet slipping with every motion. Meanwhile, Branch was making steady progress. Or, at least, he would have been if he didn't have to keep an eye on and assist Poppy every couple of seconds. He'd hang in place and wait for her to catch up, or backtrack to give her a helping hand, or a few times outright catch her with his hair when she lost all grip. Yet, despite all that, he never once lost his footing, his movements swift, confident, and even elegant. Along the way, he offered Poppy some tips. Once you have a firm hold, test the next potential hold to see if it's stable. Never put all your weight on any one spot. Try splitting your hair into several strands so you can grip more places. Branch also explained more about why climbing skills are so important. This is an excellent method to build strength and agility in your whole body, not just your hair. Trees are also the perfect escape from most common predators. Her addition to the lesson was, and it can also be lots of fun. It could be made into a game. Whoever gets to the top wins a cool prize, like a scrapbook kit or an upgraded music box. Branch deadpanned. Sure, I suppose. Whatever the reasoning, it's an effective exercise. After what seemed like hours, but was probably more like 15 minutes, the two trolls reached the top. Poppy cheered. Woohoo! We made it! Phew! Now that's what you call a workout. Actually, it's what you call half a workout, Branch corrected with a smirk. We still have to get all the way back down. The grey troll smirked even more, as his pink companion groaned and hung her head, her fluffy ponytail flopping forward. So down the tree they went, Branch going first and keeping an eye on Poppy as she tentatively followed his route. Once he was a few troll lengths away from the ground, he jumped the rest of the way and landed neatly. He looked up at Poppy, who was still a decent hair stretch above him. Then, at that moment, the main twig she was hanging onto snapped and her foot slipped. She wasn't quick enough to catch herself with her hair, so with a startled squeak she fell the rest of the way down. Branch's reflexes, however, were much quicker. He lunged forward and managed to catch her with one smooth motion. With the princess cradled in his arms, her little pink hand on his chest, and her beautiful face startlingly close to his, he was frozen in place, unable to even think. Poppy's reaction to their closeness was very similar. Here she was, being held in his strong arms. Not technically a hug, but she would probably count it as one. Amazed that he hadn't even stumbled when he caught her, and staring into his light grey-blue eyes. There was just something about them. Finally, she broke the extended silence. "Thanks for the catch." Her words must have snapped Branch into reality, for he practically tossed her out of his grasp, his cheeks now darker than his nose. He mumbled something that Poppy didn't catch, but before she could question it, he spoke up.
"Let's try some self-defense moves. They're good exercise."
With his face still significantly darker than usual, he spun around and headed west, toward a spacious meadow, and after a second, she scampered after him. Once they arrived, Branch proceeded to demonstrate defensive techniques, both with and without hair assistance, some generic and others for specific situations. For example, the best way to fend off a giant tarantula, which can be tricky considering these creatures are swift climbers, spin thick webs, and are at least 10 times the size of a troll. Poppy was impressed by Branch's swift agility. She could barely keep up and keep her footing, even though she was pretty sure he was going easy on her. But being challenging also made the task a lot of fun. Some of the intricate moves even reminded her of some cool dance moves. Meanwhile, Branch was not impressed. Poppy was not taking the lesson seriously, even though she claimed she was. It was like trying to teach a trolling who had eaten too much candy. Eventually, she stopped trying to copy his moves and ignored his instructions and demonstrations entirely. She was just making up her own random moves, which wouldn't have fended off a fruit fly, let alone a tarantula. "Come on, Branch, try it like this. It's more fun." The perky pink princess continued her silly dancing and started humming a tune to match.
"It's not supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be learning how to defend yourself from potential predators."
"But there are no predators around right now, and we've been training for a long time. So why don't we have some fun instead? These moves are kind of like dancing. Watch."
"No, it's not like dancing at all. And we've barely been training half an hour. You're not even—"
Branch paused his scolding and took in a slow, deep breath. His frustration was building up, and he didn't want yet another pointless fight to occur.
"You know what? Why don't we call it quits? I need to get back to the bunker and do some cleanup. You can continue your own defensive dancing on your own."
"I can help you with your cleanup if you want. I still have some free time."
"Well then, you can scrape out the sludge from all the plumbing pipes while I replace all of the rat and cockroach traps. Unless you'd rather deal with the traps and I can work on the pipes. Or I could get you dig through the compost and—"
"No!" Poppy's grimace almost made Branch smirk. No thanks. I actually just thought of something I need to do in the village. See you next week, aka Monday." She spun around before he could suggest anything else and headed off, half skipping and half trying to mimic some of the self-defense moves, albeit very sloppily and inaccurately. Branch headed back to his bunker with no intention of doing any kind of cleanup. He just needed an excuse to get away from her antics, an excuse that would deter her from joining in.
Why does Poppy have to turn everything into a game? Does she even know the meaning of the word serious?
Branch complained to himself as he stomped through the undergrowth.
All she ever thinks about is singing and dancing and scrapbooking. She's so annoying and so loud and so stubborn and obnoxiously optimistic and...
Branch sighed heavily, his pace slowing.
And so incredibly sweet, and so full of uplifting positivity, and so stunningly beautiful. My only motivation to keep going, my only reminder that I'm not totally alone, my only ray of sunshine in my dark and cold life.
He sighed again. Even when she got on his nerves to the point where he wanted to rip out his own hair, he still adored her. Even when he managed to avoid her for several weeks, she still invaded his thoughts and dreams. Even when he told himself that admiring her was a stupid fantasy, a total waste of time, a losing battle. The Magenta Princess was everything to Branch, and that would never change. She would forever leave him both heart-warmed and heartbroken. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Oh boy, beautiful, very flirty, very, wait a second, he's kinda cute, but also kind of sad at the end. they both really, really care about each other, and she's properly noticing that he's fit now. She's just like, whoa, hello. But it's not like a, huh? She's denying it to herself now. She's in denial, and that's really like, these two are just, it's golden retriever and black cat energy, isn't it? Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.